I have a very special guest. I have the one and only Rip Esselstyn on the Clean Food Dirty Girl podcast. Rip, thank you for joining me. I feel like I'm talking to a famous person. So thank you for making the time, for popping in and saying hi.
Yeah, well, I had you on my podcast not too long ago, and we had a fabulous conversation. In fact, I think what stuck with me more than anything about that conversation, and I use it a lot now, is you referred to a chair that you had in your room, and it was basically the suck it up chair, where if you felt like crap, you went in that chair and you just sucked it up.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was after a hard day of binging or what it was, but
yes, I remember that. That was a great conversation. I loved being on your show. And that was actually when I quit drinking.
that's right.
And I was like, I need to feel my feelings. That's what needs to happen here. Like, this is how I'm going to get through this. And so, yes, I did have that chair. And it was a good place to physically go to, like, be able to do something that wasn't drinking, like putting my body in a physical place. So I'm glad it was memorable for you. Yes. Thanks for recounting that. And so, yeah, we had a great conversation when I was on your show, and I'm really excited to have you on our show. So thanks again for reciprocating that. I have a lot of questions. So you, of course, have done many amazing things in your life, and you're doing great things, promoting a plant-based diet. And of course, your dad has done amazing things and changed so many lives. So I would love to talk a little bit, just to start out, how you were raised, because I'm not sure, like, the timeline of, like, when your dad wrote the book and when he started to change his life, and, like, how did you grow up until that point? Can you just give me, like, an overview of your life, basically? No pressure.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to, especially as far as like how we ate.
Yeah.
Because people think that the Esselstyns have always been eating this way, whole food, plant strong. And the reality is not at all. In fact, we ate the way just about every American eats. We had Burger King, we had McDonald's, we had filet mignons, we would do barbecue ribs, macaroni and cheese, bacon and eggs for breakfast. It was really, it was an assault on our bodies, and we didn't even know it. And then that all changed in 1984 when my father started his research at the Cleveland Clinic, when he decided that if he was going to ask his heart disease patients to eat this way, that he and my mother would also eat this way, kind of in an act of solidarity with these original 22 patients. I had already gone off to college for 2 years, so I was out of the house. But whenever I came home for holidays, the summer, I got to see exactly how they were eating, and it was radically different than how I had been eating for the first 19 years of my life. But I was really curious about what they were doing. I've always had the utmost respect and admiration for my father. Mm-hmm. And so there wasn't a cell or bone in my body that at all felt rebellious. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, screw this. I'm going to eat my steak or my burger. I was like, this sounds great. Like, let's do it. And at the time, I was eating on the athletic room dining table for scholarship athletes at the University of Texas at Austin. So I was there with the football players and the basketball and the baseball, the swim team. And it was atrocious, the amount of steak and burgers and cheese and just, everything that you could imagine. And so I was not actually able to start eating this way myself full time until I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin, which was in January of 1987. And I immediately started eating that way as a professional triathlete to fuel me, and give me fantastic recovery, incredibly strengthened immune system. Never even had to worry about my weight or being overweight. And it worked incredibly well for me for the next 10 years as a professional athlete.
That's really interesting because that was in 1987, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've come a long way in the plant-based world. And I talked to you a little bit about when I was on your podcast that I was raised a vegetarian and I've never eaten meat in my life. And that was very weird in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not so taboo anymore. It's not so weird anymore. But in the 80s, that was weird. And I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, but being a triathlete in the 80s, following a plant-based diet, did you like talk about it? Did you tell people? Did you get pushback? Were people worried about you? What was your experience with that at that time?
It's funny. I did not get that much pushback. And I think it's because triathletes are always looking for a way to improve their performance.
Mm.
And it just so happened, and one of my big inspirations to actually go this way, aside from my father, was a guy named Dave Scott, who at the time was really the number one triathlete on the planet. He'd won the Hawaii Ironman triathlon 6 times, and he was a hardcore vegetarian. So hardcore, in fact, that he would wash his cottage cheese to get all the excessive fat off of it. And so, between my father's research that was now about 3.5 years old, he had already actually established proof of concept in 3.5 years with some of his patients that you could actually start to not only prevent, but also reverse these blockages in the arteries. But so I had that, and then also kind of as a testament that you could train this way and race this way, eating this way, because of what Dave was able to do, and then how I implemented this, and then became one of the top 10 triathletes at the international distance in the United States of America. I just was convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was not harming myself if what I was doing was actually enhancing myself as an athlete, as a healthy human being.
Yeah. And I guess people around you saw that. I mean, they saw that you were really thriving on this way of eating. So there's not much to argue there if you see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing is that most triathletes, this is an ultra endurance event. You're typically training, depending upon your specialty, 2 to 7 hours a day. And the majority of your calories are coming from carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. Or coming from unprocessed carbohydrates. It really, to me, didn't matter back then what your dietary philosophy was. You really engaged in healthy carbohydrates. Now, these days, keto has taken hold and some of the carnivore. So maybe with some of these triathletes, they're experimenting with that. But I think the vast majority of them realize that we as human beings, our primary fuel source is carbs.
Yeah, and it's amazing because so many people are still very scared of carbs, and they take carbs as like a one kind of umbrella without understanding the complex carbs versus simple carbs. But I think even then, even in the plant-based community, I see it. People are so conditioned to be afraid of carbs because they don't want to gain weight or develop type 2 diabetes. And so I wanted to talk a little bit because I wanted to bring up protein with you because I want to keep going with your story, but I want to pause just for a second because it seems like in the past, few years, couple years, maybe there's been this sort of resurgence of, oh, we need a lot of protein. We need a lot of protein. We need more than we think we need. And it seems to me like there's a lot of people who have kind of gotten on board that, okay, you can get your protein from plants. But now I see a lot of people really worried that they're not getting enough protein from plants. People who are, working out, who are maybe lifting some weights or doing some training. So can you just hit on that a little bit, since you've been a triathlete, since you're still very fit and active? So what do you say to that?
Well, I think that most people, if you were to ask them, how much protein are you currently consuming, don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Right? As a firefighter for 12 years with the Austin Fire Department, the vast majority of our medical emergency calls, I should say the vast majority of our calls were medical emergency calls. And I didn't once respond to a 911 emergency call for kwashiorkor, which is the medical term for protein deficiency. It just doesn't exist. And as long as you're consuming enough calories. And I think that, if you read Dr. Greger's latest book, How Not to Age, he talks about how one of the best things you can do is actually eat a low protein diet, not a high protein diet. And so I think that unfortunately, this is a bit of a fixation that we, and it seems like a lot of the world has with protein, which I don't think is well-founded. I do realize that as people age, let's say over the age of 65, I think that it shows pretty definitively that your protein requirements go up. And I don't know if that's because as we age, also our appetite goes down and some other things. But I can tell you, as a professional triathlete and still an incredibly active human being, I've already trained 3 hours today, that I have never once worried about how much protein I've been consuming. I've never done protein shakes or protein powders. I just get all my protein from whole plant-based foods. And once you realize that you only need, depending upon who you are and how active you are, but according to the World Health Organization, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So for somebody like myself that weighs about 182 pounds, that would be right around maybe 82 grams per day if you do the math on that. And I easily, just eating my whole grains in the morning, my fruits, my small handful of walnuts, having a baked potato with black beans, spinach, some dressings on top of that. And then for dinner, let's just say I'll do a rice and beans extravaganza. I mean, I'm easily getting over 100 grams of protein per day. So I think that the thing is, how active are you? How many calories are you consuming over the course of a day? And as long as you're consuming enough calories, my bet is you're easily going to be getting between 10 to 12% of your calories from protein, just the way it is. I mean, when you look at it, your average whole grain is 12 to 16% protein. Your average green leafy vegetable is 30 to 50% protein. Your average piece of fruit is 6.5%, 7% protein. Your average bean is 25% protein. So it's almost impossible to get, depending upon what you're eating, to get less than 10% of your calories coming from protein. And protein is 4 calories per gram. So let's say you're consuming 3,000 calories a day and 10% of those are coming from protein. That's actually right around 80.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a good point. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that all plants have a certain amount of protein in them, right? And so if you're eating a whole food, plant-based diet, whole plant foods, which is what Clean Food Dirty Girl is all about, and I know that Plant Strong is all about, just eat enough calories and you're going to, as long as you're eating, like a wide range of food, it's going to be okay. And so, yeah, go for it.
And I think the other thing that's important for your audience to hear, and I'm sure you've talked about it many times, is that to me, the Goldilocks form of protein comes from plants. And then when you get your protein from chicken or beef or fish or anything like that, you're kind of getting I'm going to call it a inferior piece of protein because of the way the essential amino acids are in those. So they're typically too high in the sulfuric containing amino acids, which promote inflammation. drain your bones of calcium, promote cancers and tumors, raise cholesterol levels. So it's just kind of a third-rate weak form of protein. Yes, it may be more bioavailable and more readily absorbed, but if you look at the work of T. Colin Campbell in the China study, you'll see that that's not a good thing, right? Having something, especially protein, that's highly bioavailable is not what you want. You want something that's assimilated a little bit slower. And the essential amino acids you're going to find in plants, whether it's blueberries, raspberries, black beans, or steel cut oats, they're all of the perfect combination and proportion that's super friendly to our bodies. So, and then the other thing, it doesn't come with the added baggage that you're going to get in meat with cholesterol and saturated fat and heme iron and trimethylamine oxide, TMAOs, all this stuff that our bodies don't need and don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great reminder for everybody. And thanks for hitting on that. And I know it's something that I've been listening to this my whole life. I mean, even when I was like a kid, when I didn't eat meat, one of my grandmothers was from Austria. And so it was a lot of meat. And she would always be so worried about me when I would go over to visit her. She's like, oh, you're not, and I was like a naturally thin kind of kid. And I have this kind of thin frame. And oh, she just would never stop. Like she was so concerned for me. And here I am, I'm just fine. And here you are after all these years. So after you kind of made that switch, after you graduated from college, then did you just continue on with that? And has that been your way of eating ever since?
Yes. So I've been eating this way now for 38 years. So ever since I graduated from University of Texas at Austin, and it served me incredibly well. And, I would say that I ate no differently when I was doing the triathlons full time than I do now, except for that I don't eat as much these days because I'm not training as much. So I don't need to eat as much. And frankly, I don't want to eat as much. I mean, back then in the day, I was probably consuming 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day when you're training that much and that hard, and you need to basically, continue to fuel yourself. So eating almost became like a fourth workout. Really did.
Yeah.
But it has served me so well. After doing the triathlons, I became a professional, I should say a paid firefighter for the city of Austin, Texas, and continue to eat that way doing that. Even though I got, belittled and made fun of more than any human being deserves. You talk about an inhospitable environment for someone to eat this way. As a triathlete, it was a piece of kale. As a firefighter, in that kind of very, I'm going to say, toxic, masculine environment and culture, it was rough. But I was one of the older firefighters that was able to get on with the city of Austin. I was 34 when I got in. And so I already had a pretty tough skin. I didn't let all the razzing get to me, and I kept to my guns. I can remember I walked in the first day after 6 months in the training academy to Fire Station 1. I wanted to go to the biggest, baddest firehouse, and this station had 2 fire engines, a fire truck, and an EMS unit. So typically there were 18 guys at this station. It was going 24/7, so many different alarms and calls all day and all night long. But I walked in that first day and they saw what I was eating. And this one guy got in my face and he said, the last vegetarian that came here didn't last 1 week. And I was like, I probably won't last much longer either. Right. And instead of saying, oh yeah, we'll watch this. And then I just kind of did my thing. And next thing you know, it's 12 years later.
Wow. And you wrote a book about this experience, and you really, you changed some lives along the way too. So What, okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. I think one thing that I hear a lot in our community is, okay, I'm changing the way that I'm eating. I'm adopting this new way of eating, and I'm the only person doing it, and my family isn't on board. Everybody thinks I'm very strange. How do I deal with it? And so it sounded like you were just like, you kind of shined it on. Was that challenging for you, or was it easy for you just to let it kind of roll off?
You know, it's all in how you deal with it, and how you react or don't react when people start getting in your face, harassing you, questioning what you're doing. And so first and foremost, I'll say, I think it's really important that you realize that it's your life, it's your health, and don't let anybody take that away from you, especially if they're completely clueless and they just want you to follow what they're doing to make them feel better about it. For me at the firehouse, one of the things that made it easy was I also ended up being the record holder for going up the nine stories with bunker gear, 75 pounds of hose on your back. I had the record on the treadmill stress test. And then, of course, the first about 4 or 5 years that I was a firefighter, and I was now getting up into my late 30s, early 40s, I was coming out of the water first on ESPN and ABC at the Xterra World Championships. So, all of a sudden, instead of, giving me a load of shit, they're like, that's my boy. That's my boy, Rip, coming out of the water first. And then, what happened in 2003 after I'd been a firefighter for about 6 years is, one of my fellow firefighting brothers had a cholesterol that was 344, had a horrendous family history of men in his family dying before the age of 50. And so I challenged him to eat the way I ate. And then 28 days later, his cholesterol came down to 196, lost 14 pounds, was feeling like $1,000,000. And then everybody jumped in at Fire Station 2 on the C shift. I ended up writing the book. And then before I knew it, there were pockets of people at all 42 fire stations in Austin, Texas, that were following the Engine 2 protocol. And in fact, we have a physician. There's a physician that every firefighter has to see. He's an in-house physician and has to see every year, get your annual physical. And I can't even tell you how unhealthy most of these firefighters are, whether it's high blood sugar levels, insulin resistance, hypercholesterolemia, prediabetes, diabetes. And so when I told him I was writing the book, and he always saw my numbers, he was curious. I said, I'm writing the book. Here's my father's research. And I asked him, I would love it if you would read the book and give me any of your feedback. This is actually before I turned it into the publishing house. And he said, you know what, because my call to action in my first book was to do it for 28 days, right? Take the challenge. And he did it. And the physician, he lost 20 pounds. His cholesterol came down 80 points. And he started, doing a deep dive into the literature that was out there at that point in time. And so lo and behold, he started writing on a prescription pad to people that came in that were overweight, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high blood sugar levels, the Engine 2 diet. This is after it had come out. So quite a turnaround from, when I came on board in 1997 to almost 2009 when the book was released. And now there's people that are embracing it, not shunning it.
Yeah. And that happened because you were able to stick to it and to be true to yourself and be true to what you wanted to do without being influenced because guys are being jerks about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to your original question, I think about, what should people do when they're getting a lot of pushback. And I think that if this feels authentic and real to you and important to you, which I applaud dramatically, then stick to your guns. But I think it's always a little bit better, depending upon your personality, to keep it low key as opposed to being kind of obnoxious and you being the one in people's faces.
Yeah.
In a culture that truly is nutritionally illiterate and doesn't, for the most part, understand why you're doing what you're doing, especially today with all the noise and confusion around all these dietary different methodologies that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you handled that person so beautifully. Like they said, oh, you're not going to last a week. You're like, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, that's such a wonderful way to just defuse it, because if you would have been like, oh yeah, I'm going to, show you, it wouldn't have helped the situation. And so I think that was a really, really nice way to handle that. And as far as the, I mean, there's a lot of the carnivore diet, and I keep seeing like it's getting a lot of traction. A lot of people are doing it. I'm seeing it on social media, and I'm just amazed that it's such a big trend right now. Have you talked to people who are doing the carnivore diet? Like what is this?
Well, I think it's, for the most part, it's just a meat diet, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, and there's another evolution or iteration of the carnivore diet is the lion diet, where literally you're just eating red meat and water, and I think maybe even a little bit of salt. But I don't know what people are thinking, frankly. I think it shows a certain level of desperation that's out there with people that are either looking to get healthy, looking to lose weight. And unfortunately, a lot of these people, these influencers that are out there that are just following the bro science, they're influential. I mean, they're influential, right?
Yeah.
And so they know how to attract people and get them interested in their lifestyle, and they make it seem very glamorous, and they probably have a 6-pack. And so they're like, oh, I want to look like them. And I think, but the reality is, you take a peek under the hood and it's not a very pretty sight. And I bet you look at their numbers, and there's some red flags everywhere when it comes to their cholesterol, their LDL,
Yeah, there has to be.
all those biomarkers.
Yeah. I think it was Dr. Greger said one time, like, in any diet that will give people a free pass to eat bacon is going to be popular. Like, anything that's going to give people a free pass to eat the butter and eat all that greasy, meaty stuff. There's a lot of people who are going to get on board with it. So I want to talk now a little bit. So I see also in the fabulous Clean Food Dirty Girl community, there's different types of people. So for me, I've never eaten meat, and I've been plant-based since 2010. And for me, it's just, I don't think about it. It's my life. This is how I eat. I don't think about any other way, because for me, there's just not another way. I eat whole plant foods for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and carry on. But I know that for a lot of people who are making the switch, and maybe whose family who aren't making the switch, in the beginning, it seems like it can feel really hard in some ways. And I think sometimes people reach this point where it's like, okay, I've done really well, and they sort of veer off. And so what sets people apart from just continuing eating this way, do you think, to people who feel like it's kind of something that they go on and off from?
Well, I think a lot of it gets down to, why are you doing what you're doing? Right. And how, we always, in our programs, we always find your why. And that why may change, but if your why is powerful enough, it should really ground you and center you and help keep you on the straight and narrow, so to speak. I think another important thing is, what's your support network look like? And are people that you surround yourself with, are they Are they living this way or not? And if your friends and your family are not, listen, it's going to be a lot harder. But I can tell you, like, you go to an Esselstyn Christmas or Thanksgiving or summer birthday party for Anne when she's turning 90, and all you're going to find is just a smorgasbord of plant-based delectability, right? And that's all you're going to find. So there's no temptation to do anything but eat the right way. And just like you said earlier, you eat whole food, plant-based breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it ain't no thing, right? Just carry on.
Yeah.
And so that's the same way it is in our house, everywhere. But if you're living in a house divided and your husband has one side of the refrigerator that's got the salami and the bacon and the cheese, and you're trying to do your thing, I feel for that person, for sure. And I would try and do everything that you can to make this feel like an adventure. And, and what are you going to do today to resist going down that path in a society, in a culture that is doing everything they can to pull you down that sinkhole? And it's a sinkhole. And so, like, traveling it's difficult, right? But you do things to prepare. You make sure that, you're not going to go hungry, and you have a couple sandwiches in your bag, a couple pieces of fruit, maybe a couple healthy bars, because a hungry stomach makes kind of weaklings of us all. And so I try not to do that to myself. And then anybody can figure out how to go make it work with Happy Cow these days, and apps like that, where you can it knows your location, and then it can find 20 restaurants within a 5-mile radius to make it work. So I would say then look at it as an adventure and do it for you. But yes, and then if you do happen to slip up, right, which we're all human and none of us is going to get it right all the time, but one of my coaches that works with me at our retreats, Adam Sudd, he has a great analogy. He's like, if you're driving along on the highway and you get a flat tire, you pull over and you fix the flat tire. You don't pull over and then put a hole in your other 3 tires it's off, right?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you slip up, dust yourself off, get up, figure out what were some learnings from that slice of cheese double pepperoni pizza. Because I would also say know yourself. And there's some people that if they go just a little bit off the reservation, next thing they know, they're curled up in a fetal position a month later and they've gained 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? Just that one little slip up. So if you know that you're that way, you can't have that one slice of pizza. You can't have that one chocolate chip cookie or whatever it is. And there's some people that we've worked with that that's the way they are. And so this truly is a matter of life and death for them.
Yeah. No, I think that it's true. I mean, I'm somebody who can't have one glass of wine, right? And it took me a long time to be able to admit that. But once I did, it was like, oh, I can't have one glass of wine. So it's so much easier for me to not have any. So I'm just not going to have any. And for me, I can have a whole food plant-based cookie and be really satisfied with that. And that's where it stops. But for some people, we all have our thing. We all have our thing that our brain just ding, 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 ding lights up to. So I think I love the analogy of the tires. And I think that knowing yourself, it's really important to realize, okay, well, where's my kind of, kryptonite with this?
And I like what you really said there about the wine, right? You can't just have one glass. And so don't put yourself in that position where if the only way that you're going to have 6 or 10 brownies is if you have the first one, then don't have the first one.
Yeah.
Do everything you can to not put yourself in that position.
Yeah. It's so much easier. And I can tell you, it's not worth it. It
Yeah.
just isn't worth it. So yeah, I love that. And know yourself. I think that, I think as we change how we eat, as we get more in tune with ourselves, we learn about ourselves, right? Because it's not so it's more peaceful in here, I think. I love
Mhm.
what you said a little bit ago that said, like, do this for yourself and don't let anybody take that power away from you by making the choices that you want to make. And I love that. And I think one thing that I say a lot is nobody else has to live your life, right?
Mhm.
You're the one living your life. And so don't let somebody else influence, because they don't have to deal with the repercussions. They don't have to deal with the fallout from, your choices, good or bad, right? So I think
It,
great.
and it's interesting, a mainstay at our 6-day retreats for the last probably 8 years has been Dr. Michael Clapper,
Mhm.
who I'm sure you and your audience are very familiar with. But he loves telling our participants, listen, you are a grown human adult, and it's no business of anybody else's what you're putting into your mouth. And when you're on that hospital bed, right, for open heart surgery or whatever it is, they're not there with you. It's just you basically dealing with whatever it is, cancer, heart disease, amputation of a limb from diabetes, blindness, neuropathy, whatever it is. And so this is, as he likes to say, this is serious business.
Mm.
This is your life that we're talking about. And so don't let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't be eating, because this is your decision.
Yeah. So true and so powerful. Really good stuff. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit first. I want to know what you did this morning to train. How do you train? How do you move your body? Because I see you on Instagram all the time and you're like so buff, so strong. You're always
Well,
moving.
you're too cute. Can you see anything there?
Oh.
But this morning, I woke up and I swam. I've been part of a master swim program for over 25 years. So I swam with my group from 7 until 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I immediately raced to the pickleball court and I played pickleball from 8:15 to 10:15. And I've got a group of guys I play pickleball with about 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then I also have another group that I play 2 times a week. So I usually play 5 days a week pickleball. It's my new jam. And it's, for so many years, Molly, I just did a lot of solitary training,
Mm.
on the bike, running, the triathlons. And so I really enjoy now a much more social sport. And it's so playful, it's so fun, it's so competitive. So it has a lot of qualities that are near and dear to me, and I can't get enough of it. So that's what I did this morning. I got a bit of a late start today to the workday, and then I immediately came here and wolfed down my cereal that I have literally 6 days a week, which is my Rips Big Bowl. So I've got a line of commercial food products, and one of them is the Rips Big Bowl cereal. We have 3 varieties, and my favorite right now is the date, the banana and date. And so I had that with a sliced grapefruit, sliced banana, kiwi, ground flaxseed meal, chia seeds, hemp hearts, and almond milk.
Nice. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I love pickleball as well. I think that it's a fantastic sport. I love playing it. And what I love about it is that it's so accessible to people. And it really is such a fun social thing to play with friends. I mean, and it's addictive. It is.
Well, what's also great about it is you find out in a hurry what you get to see the true color of people, right? When they're losing, when they're winning, how they handle being a team player, a partner. And I love getting peeks into the nitty gritty, like beauty or ugliness in people.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when you travel with somebody, you really get to know someone when you
Yeah,
travel, and it's like you really get to know someone when you play pickleball with them.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that you're into that sport. I think that it's great. For anybody who hasn't tried, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. And it's
Mm.
a great way to get a workout too, and you're outside and it's so many great things about it. So, okay, that is yeah, I love that. So you're moving, you're eating. I want to talk about things that things in your routine that has changed over the years. Like, are you
Mhm.
doing things differently now than you did? I mean, apart from the physical training, because I know that that has changed for you, but is there anything else that has changed in your routine as you've gotten older? And so are you doing things differently now than you were like in your 40s, for example?
Interesting. Well, yes. And I've got 3 kids now too. And so my life now isn't just about, taking care of Rip all day long and doing whatever I feel like. There's dropping people off at school. There's picking people up at school. There's driving people, to basketball practice, to swimming, whatever it is. And so what I found is I don't have as much of a routine, but I try and just kind of shoehorn things in when I can. The one thing that has never changed really since probably 1990 actually is I swim 6 mornings a week
Mm,
with that master swim program.
mhm.
So that's a routine that I have never kind of faltered from. There was a time there, like maybe 5 years ago, where I was mountain biking 3 or 4 times a week. I've ratcheted that back. I'm now mountain biking maybe once a week,
Okay.
usually on the weekends. Pickleball is completely um, taken the place of my mountain biking. Um, but there, yeah, I'm trying to, one of the things that's become a very, very important routine for me and my family is as many times a week as we can having dinner together as a family,
Mm.
right? Sitting
Mm.
around the lazy Susan table and putting all the screens away and then going around and just sharing stories and just connecting
Gosh,
and
love
talking.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another little routine that we've started probably 2 or 3 years ago, we got a cat, a black cat named Pickles, and we have a dog named Jade. And so every night I'm very, very lucky in that our backyard opens up to a green space of about probably 20,000 acres.
Wow.
And so we walk about a quarter mile to this owl house, and then we just kind of walk back and we get this amazing view of the night sky. And we look at Jupiter and Mars and Venus and the moon and any other constellations. And so that is something that we do every night before we go to bed is we take Jade and the cat, Pickles, also loves going on this walk.
Oh, I love a cat that goes on a walk. That's so cool.
It is so cool. And it's a she, and she always has to be in the back. And if you turn around and look at her, she'll get really like close to the ground. So she doesn't like you to know that she's there,
Uh-huh.
but she has to be there.
I love it. And I love the routine of looking at the night sky. That's such a wonderful way to end the day.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about meditating, and that's a routine that I want to start getting
Mm.
into is just a little bit of meditation in the morning and at night. I think even if it's just 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that it's a good idea. I know
Yeah.
it's a good idea. And when I do it, it's always is helpful. I think it's just
Yeah.
developing the routine, developing the habit.
And another routine that I got to say that we've now started. We started it once I launched the Plant Strong pancake and waffle mixes because they're so easy and convenient. Is every Sunday morning when I get home from swim practice, we have typically as a family, we have pancake or waffle breakfast.
Nice.
That's
Gotta
nice.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. Hey there, you beautiful human. If you are tired of stressing about what to eat, feeling stuck in a food rut, or spending hours searching for healthy plant-based recipes that actually taste amazing, listen up. At Clean Food Dirty Girl, we have got you covered with our Meal Plan Club. Every week, you get a full plan packed with insanely delicious plant-based recipes. Think saucy bowls, hearty soups, vibrant salads, and of course, plenty of tacos, all made from whole plant foods. Not only that, but we give you a shopping list, a prep list, and step-by-step instructions so you know exactly what to do. No guesswork, no overwhelm. When you sign up, you'll have access to over 450 plans, and we add new ones all the time. So whether you're new to plant-based eating or you've been doing this for years, our meal plans will help you save time, save money, eat better, and feel amazing without having to figure it all out by yourself. So if you're ready to upgrade your meals, head over to cleanfooddirtygirl.com, click on the top of the page where it says join, and choose Meal Plan Club. You can read all about it and sign up there. Okay, I hope to see you in the club. Your taste buds and your future self will thank you. Oh, and one more thing, perfection is not required. Okay, so what about your mom and dad? How are they doing? How you mentioned that your mom is 90, and is your dad the same age or is he older?
Yeah. Great question. So my dad is about 2 years older than my mom.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so my dad will be 92 this year, and my mom will be 90 in July. And they're doing both phenomenally well. They're not on any medications. They exercise daily. Both of their mental faculties have not slowed down one iota. My father is still at almost 92. He's the director of the cardiovascular disease prevention and reversal program at the Cleveland Clinic Wellness Center.
Wow.
And so the last Friday of every month, he has a Zoom call where he goes through 6 hours counseling session with people with heart disease.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
my mother joins him for that and shares a lot about cooking and how to shop and all that. So yeah, and they're just, I feel so fortunate to still have my parents around, and so far so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. My mom has been vegetarian since she left her since she moved out of her house when she was 18 or from her parents' home. She never liked meat, but she was really forced to eat it because that's just how it was back then. And so she was vegetarian for a long time, but in 1997, she was fortunate enough to have a doctor that really gave her some good advice. And even though she hadn't eaten meat for decades, she was, eating cheese and butter and cream, and she was having some gallbladder issues. And she had a doctor that said, eat whole plant foods, stay away from dairy, stay away from high fat, do like a low fat vegetarian diet is what it was called in 1997, and see how that works. And she took it to heart. So she changed how she ate. She went whole food, plant-based totally, and gallbladder cleared up. She lost 30 pounds, healthier than she had ever been. And she still eats this way. She's 81, doing great, super active. I mean, you're right. It's such a blessing to have your parents around for that long, but also to have them enjoying life and having them be healthy and having the quality of life that you want for people that you love.
Yeah. And so many people say, wow, I wish I had those Esselstyn genes. And it's like, no, you really don't. I mean, if you knew, like my father's father died at 72 from a combination of diabetes and prostate cancer, the amount of tumors, cancers, heart disease that runs on both sides of the Esselstyn family tree, my mother's side and my father's side, is abysmal. And I really think that my parents are the oldest, of the Esselstyns on my father's side and Kryles on my mother's side. I don't know if there's been any others that have lived this long. So again, I think it's a testament to the lifestyle that they were able to start when they were in their mid 40s, early 50s.
Okay, so that's good. So they were in their mid-40s. So yeah, it's never too late, you know?
Never too late.
I mean, really, that's such a great reminder. And yeah, same. I mean, my family has all kinds of health things on both sides, but also they ate completely different and had completely different lifestyles than my parents.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So,
My father was 50 when he started this, and
okay.
my mother was 48.
And then once they started, based on his research and what he was finding, they switched to how they were eating. And was it just like, okay, full steam ahead? Or did it take them a little bit to find their way with it?
No, I would say it's full steam ahead.
Yeah.
That's and that's and that's how my father does things, and my mother was just so absolutely supportive
Mm,
of my father's research, and then she's the one that made it happen in the kitchen with all the meals, and where the rubber hits the road, she made it happen.
yeah. Yeah. And then that's a good point because we can know all of this stuff, but it really does come down to what are you doing in your kitchen, right? And the choices that you're making at the grocery store. So I'm just curious. I want to hit briefly. I have some questions for you from our community, but I want to
Yeah.
talk briefly about your line of packaged food because you just don't see packaged food with the ingredients that your packaged food has at the grocery store. So what inspired and prompted you to do that?
So I never ever would have dreamed of doing something as preposterous as starting a line of food products. And the only reason I am is because back in 2009, John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Food
Mhm.
Market Stores, invited me to become a whole food, basically whole food market ambassador. And so he kind of gave me this once in a lifetime opportunity to spread this message, to talk to team members. They had about 100,000 team members at the time, to talk to customers around the world, and then also lead these 7-day immersive retreats where we took Whole Foods' unhealthiest team members and basically showed them what was possible in just 7 days of eating this way.
Nice.
And then lastly, he said, Rip, I want to do a food line that's a Whole Food Market exclusive brand that carries all of the tenets that you wrote about in the Engine 2 diet. And so the food line, it was called Engine 2 Plant Strong. It was available only at Whole Foods. And we built that up over the course of 10 years. And then after the Amazon acquisition,
Mhm.
it just wasn't a priority anymore. They wanted to focus on their $3 billion 365 everyday value brand and their
Yeah.
Whole Food premium brand. And so John basically said, Rip, now's your time. Take the brand and run with it. Everything you've learned over the last 10 years with Whole Foods, run with it. And now you get to fly about, roam about the cabin, and you're not confined to just Whole Foods. And
Interesting.
so I changed the name to Plant Strong. And now I had the confidence and a little bit of the wherewithal to reimagine a best for you brand of packaged goods that could not only be insanely healthy, but also could taste really good,
Mhm.
that could be on the grocery store shelves. And there really is nothing like
Yeah.
Plant Strong that's out there.
Yeah.
I would say that 99.8% of all of the packaged, canned, and boxed goods that are on the grocery store shelves are loaded with crap,
Yeah.
right? They're calorie rich and they're very, very processed, and they're going to be detrimental to your health, not supportive. And so, we look at our food line as food as medicine.
Mhm.
And all of our food actually, it qualified as food as medicine. And we now have, we have it where you can, if you have a health savings account, you
Yeah.
can apply that towards our food line and get all kinds of fantastic savings with that. But so we really wanted to kind of reimagine. I'm looking at my wall of products here, but just reimagine what a healthy line of packaged foods could look like. And we have a portfolio that is very, very expansive. I mean, if you go to plantstrong.com, you're going to find cereals, granolas, pancake and waffle mixes, skillet burger mixes, popcorn, pizza crust kits that have whole grain pizza crust and sauce packs to go with them. We have chilies, we have stews, we have the cleanest shelf stable milks on the planet that are also fortified with everything that you need from B12 to calcium and D3. And we're continuing to add products, but we want this to be a platform brand, almost like a Plant Strong grocery store where you can go for all your different day parts, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And everybody typically wants a little break from the kitchen, 1 or 2 days a week. And this is your opportunity to do it and know that you're not going to be sacrificing your health in the process.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool. And there is nothing else out there like it. And it's funny, I run a weight loss club. It's called Drop It Club. And it's based on whole food, plant-based eating and moving your body and all this. And so you Plant Strong is the caveat to the no packaged food rule. So, unless it's Plant Strong, then no, we're not doing it. So, well, congrats. I mean, that's you must have learned so much along the way in doing that. That's fascinating.
Learned a lot. Also, I've assembled a really amazing, passionate team to help me on this journey. And it is a journey. Right now we've got 8 full-time employees that are helping to make this happen. And just for the listeners that are out there, we are in Whole Foods and Wegmans and a bunch of other grocery retail stores. You can go to the website and you can see them, but only with a few of our products. If you want to find the whole assortment of products, you have to go to plantstrong.com, which is where we actually will ship it right to your doorstep.
Do you ship to Hawaii?
Hawaii, the shipping fees are exorbitant.
Yes.
So I will tell you we do, but
it's expensive.
But you have to absorb the shipping fees, which a lot of times is more expensive than the product.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the downsides of living here.
Same thing with Canada. We go into Canada, but the shipping fees are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Otherwise, any order over $80, we will pick up the shipping. And then otherwise, it's typically a flat fee of $7.
Yeah, if you're on the mainland.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great work with that. High fives, because let me tell you, I mean, really, unless you're cooking, there are no options like that at the grocery store. And you're right. People do want, a day or two off in the kitchen. I mean, because when you eat this way, as you know, it requires you to do something. It requires some cooking. So love that. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of ask you these questions from the community, and then we'll wrap up because I know it's like we're already at an hour. So let me just do this quickly.
Just so you know, I'm good. So
okay.
don't rush yourself. I love talking with you, Molly.
Yeah, I could talk talking about plants, talking about whole food, plant-based stuff. I mean, it's my favorite thing, really. Okay, so when you go out to eat at a restaurant, what is your go-to meal? Or do you eat at restaurants? What do you order when you do? What's the down low?
Yeah, there's a fantastic restaurant here in Austin, Texas. If anybody ever gets to Austin, I highly recommend it. It's a macrobiotic community, and they have a little restaurant. It's called Casa de Luz, which stands for House of Light. They don't use any added salt, sugar, fat. And they always have a grain, a green, a salad, a bean, and it is the most simple, delicious food, $14, and you get a huge, wonderful plate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that. There was 2 restaurants like that in the Bay Area where I used to live, and it was and same thing. It had just, you got what you got, whatever they had that day, you got a plate of their food. You're so lucky that you have that.
Yeah. And then the other place that I love going, especially for lunch, like a quick lunch, is Sweet Greens. I don't know if you have a Sweet Greens or if you know what it is. It's kind of like a Chipotle, but you get a big bowl and then you start and you can pick whatever green you want. I do half the bowl arugula, half the bowl chopped kale. And then I get wild rice, a scoop of wild rice, then broccoli, apples, cucumbers, chickpeas, half an avocado mushed in there. Then I get lemon. I squeeze lemon and lime as my dressing. And then I do red chili flakes, nori flakes, and that's it. And it is so incredible.
Oh, you're now making
Tofu.
me hungry.
I forgot the tofu.
Ah, so good. That sounds wonderful. Do you go to any restaurants that would not have as healthy options as that ever?
Sure. Yeah. If I go to a Mexican restaurant,
Yeah.
but I always figure out a way to make it work. And I've got this acronym that I tell people. It's FAB. All right. FAB. F, look at the menu, figure out what you can eat. And a lot of times the safest place to go immediately is to the sides. Right. So if I'm at a Mexican restaurant, I'll immediately go to the sides and I'll get a side of black beans. I'll get a side of rice. I'll ask them to bring me a side of lettuce, tomato, onions, and then steamed corn tortillas. And then I'll make, not kidding, 10, right, little tortillas with rice and beans and a salsa that I put on top and a little guacamole. But so that works no matter where you are. Obviously, a steakhouse, you just get the sides, you get the asparagus, you get the baked potato, you get the greens, all that stuff, broccoli, cauliflower. And then the A is don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because again, this is your body. It's really important. And so you can even ask, let's say you're at a Thai restaurant and you don't want all the oil and stuff. Mm-hmm. Ask them if they can do the stir fry. And instead of, doing the oil, can they do carrot juice or water or veggie broth? And so I always will ask. And then the last thing is bring your own. And so I will bring my own salad dressing sometimes, depending upon where we're going. I'll bring my own little stack of corn tortillas. We have a movie theater here called Alamo Drafthouse, and they have a great salad, but I can't stand their dressing. And so I always, in my little man purse that I carry around, I bring my own little dressing.
I love it. Okay, Fab, figure out what you can have, ask for what you want, and bring your own.
Yep.
Love it. I like that framework a lot. Last time I went to see a movie at the theater, I swear I brought a Tupperware full of lentil soup, and I just had a whole meal at the movie theater.
Yeah.
So yeah. And most times, like when you ask, and I know that some people feel awkward about asking, but really most times when I ask, it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? They might be like, okay, that's strange. But let me ask, most places, 9 times out of 10, I think it's people will do it.
Yeah. And yet when you want to ask nicely, I usually say, you think there's any chance that I could get this, right?
Yeah.
Any chance. So they're like, yeah, I think I can take care of that.
They want to work with you. Yeah. Good point.
And then the last time I went to this Alamo Drafthouse, not only did I bring my little salad dressing, but I also brought 2 sumo oranges. So after I'd finished this great salad, I, peeled the oranges and had those sumo oranges as well.
Nice. Okay. Love it. Super cool. Okay. Next question is, so how do you get more greens into your diet? And this person wanted to know specifically for breakfast.
An easy way to do it is if you like steel cut oats or oatmeal and you like savory, you can put it into your oatmeal. My mom has been doing it for years and years, and she does nutritional yeast. She does mushrooms. She does, chopped up kale, and then she does sriracha sauce.
In steel cut oats.
Yeah,
it's like kind of like the risotto almost.
Yeah. It's so delicious. I will actually throw in spinach or arugula into my big bowl, but I don't do it all the time. But that's a way of doing it. I actually find if I'm trying to get in 4 or 5 servings of greens a day, especially in the morning, I have fallen in love with arugula, and I will literally grab a handful and just eat it.
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know, like an apple or something like that.
Yeah.
And I learned that from Robbie Barbero from Mastering Diabetes, who just chomps on arugula all day long.
It's so good. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can be like bunnies.
It's a little intense at first, and it's a little bit bitter, but you kind of get used to it.
Yeah. And then you kind of like start to crave it.
True.
Okay. We sort of hit on this a little bit, but this is a slightly different question. Have your recommendations changed over the years as far as nutrition goes?
Well, I will say that the PLANTSTRONG program that kind of I am an advocate for is more lenient than my father's Plant Perfect program. And of course, my father, is dealing with heart disease patients. And so for him and his patients, it's typically a matter of life and death. For me, I'm okay with tofu, right? Even though tofu is about 40% fat, I'm okay with it. Typically with the people that are following the PLANTSTRONG program, I am an advocate of 1 handful of walnuts a day. Walnuts are the most anti-inflammatory nut out there, so I like walnuts. That has pretty much been a constant. One of the things that I've kind of borrowed from my father was all the servings of green leafies a day, because of what those green leafies can do to basically ignite your endothelial cells, which, line every vessel in our body, to produce nitric oxide, which makes the innermost lining of our vessels like Teflon instead of like Velcro. So you constantly want those green leafies basically activating those endothelial cells to produce nitric oxide as continuously as you can. So that's one thing that has changed is the amount of green leafies that we recommend on the PLANTSTRONG program. My father doesn't want his patients doing tofu, doesn't want them doing any nuts whatsoever. No avocados. We're okay, right, with the nuts, the avocados, the tofu, but you just got to be smart about them. And no, if you're the kind of person that can't have 1 handful of nuts, then you probably shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
As we talked about earlier with the pizza or the wine or the chocolate brownies. The other thing is I am such an advocate of fruit, and I typically tell people, knock yourself out. I mean, there's no such thing as too much fruit. I mean, some days, I'll have 14 pieces of fruit, like no joke. I typically have 3 to 4 pieces of fruit just in my cereal in the morning, and I love snacking on fruit.
Yeah.
And with my father, some of his patients, they have to be careful with the fruit because it really is sensitive as far as their triglyceride levels, and it raises them a little higher than they want them to be. So he kind of limits their fruit to 3 pieces a day. So anyway, I didn't directly answer your question how my program has changed, but the answer was more how the PLANTSTRONG program is a little bit different than my father's kind of more rigorous program.
Yeah, no, that was very interesting. I like how you answered that. So, and by the way, how many servings of greens do you recommend on your program? 5?
Well, on so my third book is called The Engine 2 7-Day Rescue, and it's based upon all the different people that came through our 7-day programs from 2010 to 2015. So I almost had 1,500 data points on before and after biometric screenings, everything from total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, triglycerides, blood pressure, fasting blood sugar levels, and 6. Going for six servings a day, ideally. Yep.
Okay, and a serving is how many cups?
Size of a fist.
Size of a fist.
And to me, it doesn't matter if it's raw, if it's cooked, whatever. Just try and get that much in.
Okay. Love it. Let's see.
And keep in mind, your average serving of green leafies is going to be about, 20 to 40 calories.
Yeah.
It's like nothing.
Right.
But gosh, what it's going to do for you in terms of phytonutrients, antioxidants, fiber is beyond compare.
Yeah. And what are your favorite leafy greens? Do you have like a mix of them in your house? Do you get different ones every week? Like, how do you mix them up?
So my favorite, I love dinosaur kale. I like dinosaur kale more than curly kale. I find it's a little bit more palatable. I like the way it comes off the stem. I love stripping kale off the stem, and the dinosaur comes off really nicely. As we spoke about earlier, I'm a huge fan of arugula. So always have a big thing of arugula. I'm not a fan of spinach. Not a huge fan of spinach. I don't mind it raw in salads, but I can't stand it cooked in the way it wilts and it gets all kind of slimy. So not a fan of that. Collard greens. I like collard greens if you lightly blanch them and use them as a wrap, or your rice and your beans and whatnot, especially for those people that are trying to lose weight. If you got 50 or 100 or 150 pounds to lose, don't do the bread. Instead, do the collard wraps. Much smarter play. And then love beet greens, love collard greens. I'm sorry, beet greens and Swiss chard.
Yeah.
I don't do those as much as I should, but I'd say that my go-tos are the arugula and the dinosaur kale.
Yeah, those are good ones. We get a lot of bok choy here on Hawaii, so I'm always eating choy as well. Love that.
You know what? Yes. So the bok choy, I've been doing one of my go-to dinners that I make at least once a week is a stir fry. And I have so loved using bok choy in the stir fry.
So good. So good.
So good. And so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is an easy, great one.
And it's got such a great crunch and flavor profile. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Me too. Love it. Okay. So somebody wanted to know about your stance on coconut oil and sugar.
Right. Well, coconut oil, do you have a stance on coconut oil?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think that people should eat coconut oil. I think if you want to put it in some lotion and put it on your body, then great. But I think, I don't eat it and I don't advocate for it.
Well, so the one plant food that we don't recommend people eat is coconut.
Yeah.
And it's because it's 92% saturated fat. It has got more saturated fat than any other food on the planet. And coconut oil is 91, 92% saturated fat. And people say, oh yeah, but it's those MCTs, medium chain triglycerides. But the reality is those MCTs actually only make up about 50% of that 91%. So the remaining 50% is coming from the unhealthy, saturated fat. So yeah, don't go there. It's just a calorie bomb and saturated fat. And none of us as human beings have any requirement for saturated fat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not necessary. And you don't need it. Same thing. I mean, coconut milk is the same thing. Coconut water, however, different.
Coconut
right?
water. No. I mean, well, I tell people don't even do coconut water because all these coconut waters, you look at them and most of them are 2 servings and each serving has 50 to 75 calories in it. And it's basically just sugar water. So again, this is people that have come to our 6 or 7 day immersion programs that are looking to turn their health around. And so I tell them what we're drinking this week is water. We're not drinking our calories. Yeah. So we're not doing coconut water. We're not doing soda pops. We're not doing green smoothies. We're not doing, protein powders or shakes. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're not doing alcohol, and we're not going to have sugar that available for you to put into your coffee. We're not going to have creamer. If you want to have coffee, you can have it, but you're going to have it black, right?
Yeah.
For this week. So it's amazing though, Molly, the third pillar that I have in my third book, The Introduce 7-Day Rescue Diet, is don't drink your calories. And we're going to be drinking water. But if you look from sun up to sundown, most Americans are consuming between 500 to 1,500 liquid calories a day. And the problem is those calories, they're not registered as in your brain as calories or as in your stomach as calories. And so most people will invariably, on top of what they drink, they'll also consume in a food form, however many calories they normally eat.
Right. Yeah. Great. And what about sugar? Like in general?
Yeah.
Not counting fruit. Let's just put it out there. We're not counting fruit.
Yeah. Thanks. So sugar in general, well, most people are consuming 30 added teaspoons of sugar a day. 30.
Oof. That's a big number.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And according to the American Heart Association, for men, it should be 9. For women, it should be 6. On our program, we want you to limit it to 2 or under. And where we're okay with you using like a little bit of maple syrup or brown sugar or molasses or something like that is with dressings and sauces that you're going to put on top of your green leafies or your salad, or when you make a dessert, if you're going to make a dessert. So that's about it. Otherwise, we really recommend that you stay away from, sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And sugar comes, as you know, in lots of different forms. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. And another reason why it's so nice that you have so many packaged varieties to offer of foods that would typically have a lot of sugar in them, a lot of added sugar in them. So great.
Yeah. No, just to give you and your audience an idea, like you look at some of these plant-based yogurts, and most of them have somewhere between 12 to 20 grams of added sugar in them. Now, that may not, at face value, that may not mean much to people, but I'll teach you all a little trick. So there's 4 grams in a teaspoon. So you divide whatever that number is of added sugars, and the requirement now is that food manufacturers have to list added sugars, okay, as of about a year and a half ago. So if something says 12 grams of added sugars, you just divide it by 4, and you know that, that yogurt has 3 teaspoons of sugar in it.
Yeah, and that's a lot. That's a lot in a little yogurt. Like, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And and everybody knows that like a Coca-Cola, a 12-ounce Coca-Cola has 39 grams of sugar, which is, we round that up to 40. That's 10. That's 10 teaspoons in that 12-ounce Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, those were the questions, and that I have kept you for a long time today, and I've learned so much. I've had such a nice time with you, and I know that our audience is going to love this conversation. To wrap up, if you were sitting next to somebody who is non-whole food plant-based, who had been eating kind of the standard American diet their whole life, and they were ready to make the switch, they weren't sure how, what advice would you give them?
I would let them know that you are going to be embarking on one of the most exciting journeys of your lifetime, and I am here to help you. So, feel free to reach out whenever you want. There have been thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have done this. It's easy to do. It's all about your attitude. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you probably won't be successful. And I have been doing this now myself for 38 years, and it is just the most easy thing in the world. But the first couple months can be, there's a huge learning curve. But again, I can't think of anything more exciting than doing everything that you possibly can to remove the possibility of you having to have heart disease, facing a major cancer, being, one of the almost 50% of this population that is insulin resistant and or pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. You know, we all have heard the tragic stories of what is going on these days with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I can't think of something worse than being, at the age of 70, 75, 80, all of a sudden starting to have your mind go. And now you're basically a shell of your former self. And that just doesn't seem like any way to live life, obviously. So again, I think that the science is about as crystal clear as it can be, that by going on a whole food plant-based diet, you are doing everything in your power to mitigate the cascade of chronic Western diseases that is bankrupting this country right now, and also doing so much damage and creating so much chaos within families these days. And I'll go back to Ann and Essie that are now in their early 90s. They don't need a caretaker. They're taking care of themselves. They're self-sufficient. It's up to this point in time, knock on wood, it hasn't been a burden on myself, my two brothers, or my sister, or the grandchildren. So it's just been a joy. And so there's so much that you have to look forward to by embracing this lifestyle.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Rip. I appreciate everything that you do with your work and everything that you've contributed. It's important work. So thank you for sharing your passion, and thank you for coming on here and talking with me.
Absolutely, Molly. Mahalo.